So Sarah asked if we would share the story of how we met and got married. And I moved to Cedar Rapids for a job. And the first Sunday I went to the chapel where Grace and her family go. And as I walked in the door, her grandfather met me and introduced me to his granddaughters, Grace and Sarah. And as I was looking around the chapel, I realized, we're really the only two in this age bracket. And I thought, there's going to be a lot of matchmaking.
And when I met Josiah, I wasn't really that interested right away, but after a little bit of time, I began noticing that he had a lot of good attributes, and so I began to be a little bit interested, but he showed no interest in me at all, and so that made it easier to just not be too distracted by him. And so for the next 7 years, we just remained casual friends.
After about 3 or 4 years, sometime after I arrived, I took Grace's grandfather out to eat. And later that week, I received a thank you note from him saying, thank you for the dinner, etc. And then at the very end, he signed it, one day I hope you'll become a part of our family. And so I just set the card aside. And then 5 minutes later, I thought, wait, what did that say? One day I hope you'll become part of our family? So he was very encouraging in terms of starting a relationship.
But even with all the encouragement from my grandpa, Josiah was focused elsewhere. He had different priorities at that time, and so he wasn't looking for a wife. And so we remained friends, but we had a lot of time to just get to know each other on a casual friend basis, and so that was really nice. I really appreciated that he didn't flirt with me, so we were then able to just be normal friends. And he came over a lot for dinner because my mom invited him a lot, and so he probably came to our house maybe 30 times in those 7 years before we got together. And I really appreciated how sweet he was to his sisters and how he tried to be a witness at his workplace and reached out to the younger guys at our church. And I noticed one time we had some international students at our house, and we invited Josiah as well to help witness to them. And he was sitting next to an international student from Nepal. And so I was listening to their conversation, and he was doing a really good job witnessing to this international student. And so I thought, maybe I do like him. And so we had a growing knowledge of each other through those years. Well, one time Josiah invited me to a conference with his sister. And this was in a different state, and this was kind of a new thing that Josiah emailed and invited me to come along with him and his sister to a conference. And so I thought, maybe he does like me. Well, on that trip, I got a lot more acquainted with him, just all the time talking in the car, and I just began to be really interested in him.
After that trip, I knew for sure that I liked Grace, and so I went and talked to her dad. And he told me, Grace respects you, but that we had to wait until she got back from a trip, because right after the conference, she had gone on a Bright Lights trip for a conference. So I had to wait about 6 days. It was kind of a long wait.
So when I got back from the trip, my dad invited me to a coffee shop. And he said that Josiah Moffett had expressed interest in getting to know me. And that was one of the happiest moments of my life. I was thrilled, and I said yes, and I'm interested too. And so we set up our first date for the next day, and I did not sleep that night.
I was super nervous for that first date, and so much so that I went to the grocery store and one of my friends saw me, and he knew something was going on, so he asked me what was going on. And I told him, well, I'm going on a date. And he said, well, just think of it as dinner with a friend. So I thought, okay, dinner with a friend, we can do this. So we went on our first date. It was pretty nice, but we were really nervous, and I don't think either of us ate that much. And but then we went on other dates, got to know each other better, and something that surprised me, I'm not a very emotional person, don't show my emotions very much, but I realized after about 3 to 4 weeks that if we broke up, I would definitely cry.
And I knew I was getting emotionally attached very quickly because I knew Josiah well enough to know that I thought this was going to work out, and we were just super excited about what God was doing in our lives. And I was so even we go to this small church, about 100 people or less. And so when I told the ladies at our church at a ladies' prayer meeting, one of the ladies started crying tears of joy and said, "I've been praying for years for you two to get together." And then another lady, she said, "We just didn't know what to do because we couldn't push you together, but they just felt like we would be a perfect couple." And so they were all so sweet and excited, and it was really exciting for us to have the whole support of our local church, and we had a wonderful summer together, and then we got engaged and began planning our wedding.
About 6 weeks after we got engaged, we came to an insurmountable problem, and we needed to break it off. And not just break off the engagement, but also break off the relationship.
And for us, well, it was a mutual decision, but it was agonizing for both of us because neither of us wanted to see that happen at all. And Josiah took me to a park that I normally don't go to because he knows that I form attachments with places or associations. More like I remember this special memory we had here and this special memory there. So he didn't want me to have a terrible memory at a park I went to all the time. So we went to this park in a different neighborhood, and we talked for hours, and we both, it was just so hard because we knew it was the right thing to do, but neither of us knew if we'd be able to get back together or not. And just very, very difficult.
The breakup was really rough, and for me, my roommates had heard that I was getting married, got engaged, and so they had gone and bought a house. So I was living alone. But with that, immediately saw that the Lord was at work in this. That I saw a lot of spiritual growth, the Lord working in my life. I had a lot more time to spend focused on Him, growing closer to Him. And even with all of the pain, I definitely saw that the Lord was working in my life.
After our breakup, one of the feelings that I had to deal with right away was, where is the Lord in all of this? I thought He had led me into this relationship. Would He just lead me into a relationship just to break up? Or did I misunderstand the Lord all along? Or what's going on? What is God doing? And but the Lord really brought comfort and helped me with those thoughts and helped me to see that He was using this for good. He was working. My brother Stephen took me kayaking the day after we broke up. And he encouraged me that, Romans 8:28, God works all things for the good of those who love Him, who are called according to His purpose. And Stephen said, I think God is going to use this for good in Josiah's life, and God's going to use it for good in your life. And that's really what we saw happen. I remember riding my bike through the woods shortly after the breakup, just thinking about how Scripture was filled with comfort. I knew that. But then recognizing all of this comfort was available for me to draw comfort from, but I have to I have to choose to embrace that, and I have to go to the Scriptures for comfort, and I have to recognize that to trust the Lord. One thing that helped me is to thank the Lord for the situation, for the trial He had brought me to, and that changed my attitude and caused me to be receptive to the Lord's comfort and to be eager for that, for the times in the Word. And it was kind of challenging for me to focus on reading the Bible, because I was just too distressed at that time, but I could journal scriptures just straight from the Bible into my journal and think about it as I went. And the Lord used songs and people and just so many different ways that He brought comfort lots of prayer walks with my mom, and we prayed hard and specifically for many things. And through that, I grew in faith and in just joy and hope, thinking about who God was and what he could do. And so when I look back, I don't think about the pain so much of that time as much as just the great comfort God brought during that time. And I would still see Josiah at church, Wednesdays and Sundays, and that was a blessing too. So I got to see that he was doing okay too, and we got to keep in touch a little bit. And I really missed Josiah during that time so much. And there was about 15 months where we were apart. And during that time, I just so wanted to talk to him more and things. But the Lord, I just began to recognize that the Lord did not give me an easy relationship. I mean, I never expected a broken engagement, but he was giving me one that was growing me, strengthening me, and he was using it so much. And I was learning to, have this desire really bad to marry Josiah, but also to have that desire surrender to the Lord. I was memorizing Isaiah 40 during some of this time. And so I remember one certain really hard day thinking about this verse from Isaiah 40 that says, "Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand?" And just that thought of, the Lord is so powerful, all the waters are just in the palm of his hand. I would just quote that over and over to myself throughout the day. And it was such an uplifting comfort. Another day, Psalm 147, 3 and 4, it talks about the Lord heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. And then the very next verse talks about how he names the stars and counts all the stars. And so I would just think about how here, this great and awesome God who is naming and counting the stars, it's like he steps off the throne, so to speak, and attends to give personal attention to me and just what I need that day. And so I was just grew in my closeness with the Lord and recognizing who he is and what he's doing for me.
Even though the breakup was really rough for both of us, we definitely saw the Lord working in that. And we had both approached the relationship, praying about it, talking to friends and family to see if we should start it. And it definitely seemed like the Lord was leading us to start the relationship. And with the breakup, we see that the Lord worked in our lives, but we're also thankful that we had no regrets about that relationship. And so just in romantic relationships, you're spending a lot of time with another person, trying to get to know them, but you also want to make sure that you're using that time to encourage them to the Lord, that regardless of the results of that relationship, whether it ends up in marriage or whether it ends up in a breakup, but that you both come out of that relationship stronger and more equipped to serve the Lord. Another thing for us that was helpful in our relationship was just the local church family that we had. We had a lot of input, counsel, encouragement, and a lot of support during the time after our breakup. And we just really appreciated our local church family in that afterwards I was able to meet with many of the men. I met with Grace's grandfather and dad regularly, and just very encouraging and strengthening during that time.
And I met with some of the elders' wives and some of the other, just all of the women there were an encouragement to me. And I remember certain times where some of the ladies, they said things to me that were like the perfect thing at the perfect moment. And God just used them in my life. And we were so thankful for that, for all the love and support that we felt during that time.
Sometimes the help was perhaps a little bit too eager. One of the men at our church invited us out for lunch and purposely delayed 30 minutes to force us to talk. When he did arrive, he looked at us and said, "So, why haven't you two gotten back together?" But after about 15 months, we started going to coffee shops, having longer talks, and it was at the church Valentine's Day banquet when I was getting my picture taken with a giant heart next to Grace that I realized I think we might be in a relationship again.
And one of my favorite memories from that time when we were getting back together is Josiah sent me a gift on Valentine's Day. I woke up in the morning and checked my email, and he had recorded an audiobook. And it was a book called No Fear by John Lennox, and he recorded it himself and sent me the files because he knows I love witnessing, and he knows that's what the book is about, and he knows I love audiobooks. And so we just had a lot of special different memories of gradually getting back together with the excitement of, is this for real? We were just so thankful to the Lord. And I enjoyed, we were on our dates at that time. Josiah would often share with me what he was learning from the biographies that he was reading, because he had ordered like a case of 50 different biographies during our breakup. And so usually we would meet for coffee. He would share about the story of a hero of the faith, and we would do our we would do homework from our church Bible study together, and we just spent lots of hours at the coffee shop enjoying getting back together.
During both phases of our relationship, we spent a lot of time serving together in various ministries and getting to know each other as we worked in the various things. So I worked a lot with a Bible camp over in Des Moines, so Grace came and spent a week with me counseling at that camp there, and then I went to a Bright Lights conference and also helped with the Testify evangelism training camp that her family also puts on. And we worked together with international students, did the youth group together, and so just got to see each other's strengths and weaknesses in service to the Lord, and saw that our various strengths and weaknesses would combine to be very profitable for service.
And to propose the second time, Josiah took me back to the park that we had broken up at, and it was just incredibly special. We talked through all that, got it done, and I was thrilled, and it was just amazing to be back at that park and getting back together again. And, if I had known 21 months earlier what was going to happen, it would have been a lot easier. Like, it would not have been nearly as hard to wait, knowing that I would marry him one day. But because of all the unknowns, that was so much of what made it hard. But the Lord lets things be hard so that we learn to trust him. The Lord doesn't generally take us the easy route through life, but he takes us the best route so that we grow in our walk with him and learn to trust him. Now, when I look at our story, I think I love our story. I just love how it shows the Lord's redeeming grace and showcases who Jesus is.
On our honeymoon, we read the biography of Richard and Sabina Wurmbrand, two believers in Romania, and they chose to put the Lord over their relationship. And for them, what this meant was that Richard, because of his sharing the gospel and preaching, he went to jail for many, many years, separated from Sabina and his son. And so we made the decision early in our relationship that we want to serve the Lord and put him first. And in our breakup, we were able to practice that and see that the Lord can work in any situation. We've been married about a year now, and it's been greater than either of us expected, and we have a little girl, Hosanna.
Do you want to smile for everybody? Smile.